This podcast is owned and operated by the RCR Association, a private third party to the Department of National Defense. The content of this podcast is the responsibility of the RCR Association and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the Government of Canada. The official emblems of the regiment are used with the permission of Regimental Headquarters, the RCR.
So, yeah, this is the first time I ever sat in this thing. How much time you got on one of these?
20 minutes maybe.
20 minutes?
Never moving.
Yeah, fair enough. Officers got to be on their feet commanding and doing things, right?
Yeah. Definitely not back in the office working on paperwork.
Is there a complimentary cup holder? Like, oh, there's one. That's sick.
You know,
Cup holder.
hands, dip spit, all those things.
Pintle for a machine gun and a cup holder for your coffee. I love it.
Pintle for my clipboard, my admin. This isn't even mortar platoons. This is DFSers.
DFS. So let's get into it. For everybody listening, we're over here at 3RCR, Mortar Platoon Lines. Our guest today is Captain Brett Backs-McClatchie, who is the officer commanding Mortar Platoon.
Yep.
Okay, right on. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
This is fantastic. No, this is awesome. And this is the first time we ever videotaped in, like, I don't know, anything, other than a chair. This is wicked.
Well, you like to be the ground force guys, like doing stuff, pretending to do stuff for real, getting out here and sitting in M-Razors on occasions.
Yeah, right on. So how long have you been with Mortar Platoon?
So I got my qualifications in spring, summer of 2022.
Were you in the platoon or were you outside of it?
I was outside the platoon. I was in Oster Company at the time. Just finished JRTC. Just done a BTAC with 450, 427. And then I went off, did my courses. I was supposed to come into the platoon as the 2IC behind Captain Tanner Trepanier. But then he got spooled up for Op Union. So I came back from summer leave and was Lieutenant McClatchie right in the seat.
Were you expecting this at all?
Yeah, it's what I wanted. I asked to come to 3RCR because I wanted to go to Mortar Platoon. And so as soon as I got here, I started staffing that up. I was telling my OC, the DCO, I was talking to Tanner. I was like, hey, how do I get into mortars? And then I guess I did a good enough job on JRTC, or maybe my fellow subbies didn't want mortars. So they all wanted recce. They all want to live in the woods and be hard. And I was like, no. I'll call them bombs. We'll do the killing.
So what is it about mortars that you want, that you're so interested in it?
So, a little spoiler alert, little backstory on me. I did all my best friends at university were in the artillery, and I did try to OT out of the infantry into the artillery. I know.
No, wait.
I know.
We're going to have to cut that.
And then when I went through my phase training, I still had all my artillery friends. I realized that 3RCR had mortar platoon. I was like, yeah, it's kind of artillery, and it'd be pretty cool to go out there. And yeah.
What was it about the artillery? Like, what was interesting to you?
Big Second World War history buff, and I wrote my honors thesis at RMC on the Canadian FOOs in Normandy. So I wanted to be a FOO. I wanted to be like calling in bombs. I wanted to be doing the killing that the FOOs do, because it seems pretty cool.
That's really neat.
So I was like, yeah, if I go to mortars, I have the opportunity to do that. Or if I go to the artillery, I can go be a FOO. I can go be a mounted FOO, drive around in the lav, support the mech world, and do all that stuff. And I was like,
that's really neat. I want to go back to the whole school. So you went to RMC?
I went to RMC, yeah.
That's awesome. Why did you choose RMC?
Coming out of high school, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. One of my best buddies, Sam Phillips, he's now an engineering officer. He was over in Gagetown. He's still in Gagetown. He did, his dad was kind of pushing me to do that. My dad was pushing me to go to RMCs. We both played rugby. We knew to play rugby at RMC. And I was like, you know what? I'm an athletic guy. I've always been really interested in military history. Like, why not go to RMC? Why not go and do infantry stuff and play rugby and get paid to go to university and live in Kingston for 4 years? So, yeah, national service. I was pretty excited about it when I was.
Did you come from a family that had military heritage in it?
No,
you're the first generation?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty neat. So what were your folks or your family thinking when you told them you wanted to enlist or apply to the military?
Dad was excited. He was like, I don't have to help him pay for university. It's a easy check right there. So he was happy. Mom was pretty proud. I don't know how much of it was real for them. They're just like, yeah, my kids are going off to school, and then Canada's not at war with anyone right now. So I think they're happy. I think they were excited. My grandparents were definitely a little bit more nervous. I remember as I was graduating high school, my granny on dad's side gave like all the grandkids like little like knickknacks or things to remember them by. And the one she gave me was a coin that said "Grow Peace" on it. I still have that somewhere, but and then after I'd finished my first kind of year at battalion, it was probably like Thanksgiving or Easter or something, and I was kind of talking about some of my frustrations I had at the time, like, you know, like that we do all this training, but there's no real opportunity to go and actually action it. And Granny was like, well, shouldn't the soldiers be happy about that? And I was like, well, they joined to, you know, do the business. They joined to go to war. And you know, like, it kind of sucks to train and live out in the field all the time and, you know, sit in the rain and the snow if you never actually put it to use. It's kind of like you play football doing Oklahoma drill practice or practicing every day and then never actually getting to play in a game. And there's a bit of comfort there knowing that you're not in danger, but also at the same time, you join to do a job and you want to go and do that job.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because it wasn't until like last night and even this morning, I got a chance to sit down with Colonel Reeves, the brigade commander, and talk a bit about his perspective and thoughts. And it's interesting when you think about, no matter what your profession in the military is, I think that getting ready is like its own part of the job and the duty, with the intent of, so you can be as efficient and perform to the best of your abilities when you do deploy. And so it's like our job, half the job is always spent getting ready, if not most of it, just always chasing the concept of getting ready. Which is funny because a lot of the times when you roll out, you're never always ready.
And you just saw that too, right?
Yeah.
And as you went to Cyprus.
Yeah, exactly. And things can just come up like that. And it's just a matter of being able to perform at your best.
No.
And then gradually always challenging yourself, right? So
I mean, that was with our last CO, Colonel Shepard. His big thing was like readiness, you know, all the time. Readiness. And everyone's kind of sitting around the lines going like, why does it matter that we don't have our PWT3, or why, oh my God, my force test doesn't expire, but why do I need this? And that we got spooled up, and on a Friday, we got a warning order to go to Jordan in support of the Sudanese civil war to evacuate Canadian people and our Canadian entitled people. And
so you were part of that, Ops Command.
Yeah.
That's neat.
So we walked into work on Friday. It was any other day, you know, it's just normal. You walk into work and then we get called into like an O group. We'd started seeing something at the officers' mess the night before on Thursday. Our OPSO was on the phone. He's talking to people and we remember something that come down. But then coming to work, O group at 10 on a Friday, which was different. And our OC comes in, normally a joke and laughing guy. And he sat down straight face and said, warning order. And we were all like, NCOs in the room, all the officers in the room were like, oh, something's happening. And we left work on Friday on 72 hours notice to move. By, I think, 6 p.m. on Saturday, we were moved up to like 1 hour's notice to move. Everyone was called back in, and we spent the next 12 hours manifesting all of our supplies, getting everything ready. And then I think the first group was told they were going out the door on Monday. I don't think they actually went to King Trenton until Tuesday, but the first flight to Jordan was on like Wednesday or Thursday. So it was like flash to bang, like 3 or 4 days.
Man, that's fucking exciting.
It was exciting.
Getting schooled up.
It's
like a big part of the idea of adventure. When you think about being a soldier.
Oh yeah.
You know, adventure, purpose, all of it just happening out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. It was like, wow, we actually had to go and do something. Yeah. So there's Canadians over here who need, and Special Forces are in there right now, and we're going to go and take over. We're going to take these people and move them to a safe location. It was like, there were guys who had NOIs in to go CANSOFCOM that pulled their NOIs because they're like, I'm going to go and do this right now. So it was super fucking cool.
Oh,
it was awesome.
Hell yeah, that's wild. Like, is that your first taste of being operational, being in the military?
Yeah. That was
wow.
first one.
That's quite a first experience of being operational. So what were you thinking when you were getting spooled up for this? Because I'll tell you what I was going through with Cyprus.
So I was like, wow, this is real. I could be in a location with real bullets in my rifle on a 2-way range. Troops under my command, like they're not only are the people that were there to help, would their welfare be like partially in my hands, but also the guys under my command. You know, it's I was given a platoon that wasn't my own, a team that was kind of built from everyone who's in battalion, and I was like, these guys I've never worked with before, like their lives are like partially in my hands. How do I handle that? How do I make sure that like if we get in danger, that they all get home safe? You know, and it was scary. But it was also exciting. It was almost like a game day feeling, you know, like the day before, the morning before a game, or like, this is real. I'm going to go and do something that actually is going to have an impact around the world or in Canada, or, you know, even just as small as the people under my command. How do I look after them too?
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience.
Yeah, man, it's actually very similar to what you're saying. For me, when I went out the door for Off Globe Cyprus, that would have been my fourth like named operation that I was involved with. But each one is so different. Like this one, same thing, flash to bang, just a few days, and the whole idea of just whoa, what's going on? Like no one knows anything. You know, with my situation, no one knew like really anything.
And you were in charge, right? Like you were the senior guy.
I was the senior guy.
You recently promoted to sergeant like a couple months ago, and now it's like, hey, you're taking 8 guys over there, and you're in charge, man.
And this is a very foreign role to be in from what the infantry battalion would normally be used to. Like force protection, it's under the umbrella of what the infantry can do, but we don't do it often. And on top of that, it's such a small footprint of like of a maneuver force that's going out the door that the infantry, like my call sign only made up like a section of it, right? So no officers.
What was the rank band of the guys you had
in my section?
Yeah,
typical infantry section.
I'm interviewing you now, so
typical line infantry section, 1 sergeant, 1 master corporal. I had a couple of corporals and privates.
Okay.
So typical infantry section. And with our case, we were there to support a specific capability, right? We were there to be force protection to support CMERT, Canadian Medical Emergency Response Team, which is a capability that has seen operational activity in the last decade. But this was basically 3RCR's first kick at CMERT operationally.
If I could interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was one of the big problems on Op Savan when we went to Jordan.
Yeah.
We didn't have our own our own medical plan. So like the CMERT, that 3RCR has been the CMERT guys for years. I've got a bunch of like fellow platoon commanders here who've done the CMERT year after year to keep them a capability in-house. And then when we went on Op Savan, like we didn't have the CMERT attached to us, so there was no medical plan. So it made it hard for the government and the chain of command to put us in a risky situation because there's no plan for.
Because that impacts your decision making, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, going back to like my experiences. You know, having such limited information, like not even many crumbs. Like you could argue there were crumbs of information, and just being spooled up the way it was. I had Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was like my pre-deployment leave, and I couldn't help but think about like Black Hawk Down Mogadishu. You know, what they're asking me to go do, and like just so much of the unknown involved in it. I didn't know if it was going to be as gentle of an experience as we just show up. You know, we unpack, we coordinate a bit, and nothing happens. Or it's like everything is falling apart in the country, and we're there to evacuate people who are wounded, and humanity's at its desperate point, and everyone has a gun because security has been like dissolved. It doesn't exist.
Your guys are doing teachable C to wounded people on a plane, and we got RPGs.
Going down the rabbit hole of crazy shit. And it's
So,
hard not to.
did everyone on your team have teachable C?
No. So we went in not as skilled as we should be if we're going to go and support that kind of operational element, right? Like everyone should be CMERT experienced. Everyone should have T-Triple C because then you really are an enabler, and all the time you're spending there is just fine tuning versus us who had a huge learning curve. So I spend most of the time not vacationing. Everybody thinks I was on vacation. Everybody thinks I was my feet up, getting a tan on in Cyprus. Newsflash, I don't need a tan. But I'm telling you guys, like I was busy, no officers, so I'm involved in trying to understand their operational and planning process. I'm trying to understand their vocabulary, their
Have you ever worked with the Air Force before?
It's interesting to say that because yes, but in the context that I did, it wasn't integral to aircraft, right? I was in a deployment where I was administratively working with the aircraft, with the Air Force.
Which one was that?
That was Op Impact when I was the camp sergeant and the operations sergeant.
Manny, the camp sergeant, eh? I can see you running around giving it.
Anybody that sounds a fucking good camp sergeant. Anybody remembers Op Impact Roto 4? You know I took care of you. Okay. But yeah. But I had some experience, but I never worked with rotary wing.
Okay.
And I've been in the back of a Chinook before for like some vanilla air mobile stuff, but I wasn't embedded with that unit, that element every day doing stuff. So
They do stuff different, eh? They do stuff really different.
Yeah.
I remember when I did BTAC, I was kind of like walking in, I'm fresh off JRTC. I'm like, I've just been validated as platoon commander in a national exercise, and I'm here with the Air Force. And it's like,
yeah.
Whoa, okay. This is
Yeah, but I digress. It was a very awesome experience. But going back to you, like Ops Van, what an incredible first deployment to be a part of. There's things we can't control. We can't control to what extent we get utilized. We can't control that kind of stuff. So you answered the call.
Yeah.
When the call came out, you mobilized your soldiers. You guys got out there, and you guys were prepared to go forward if required to.
We
So
did
that's what
actually-
matters.
So my platoon did actually get to go forward.
What?
Yeah, we went. No one made it to Sudan, unfortunately, but my platoon got to go into Djibouti. The last Canadian flights out of the airport at Sudan, I forget the name, the airport, but we were in Djibouti. We were supposed to be there for about a week to offload people coming out of the airport and like work them through the airport, move them through the airhead to like their next flights. So yeah, we got to spend about a day and a half in Djibouti, and we culminated with offloading like I think about 200 Canadian entitled purse off these aircrafts.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, everyone might remember me. There's a picture of me, little Lieutenant McClatchie. I had more hair, holding a baby. My fly was undone. I had blue underwear out. So
I love the detail. We'll hopefully post that photo up. Yeah, that's incredible. So going from that deployment, what happened? Did you just rotate back home?
Yep, came back home. I was supposed to go and teach on the first serial of the new version of the advanced mortar courses.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they couldn't staff enough staff for it. So it got pushed off into the fall. So yeah, I came back to battalion. We got about 2 weeks of leave after to make up for the pre-deployment leave we missed out on, to get the post-deployment leave. And then I think we went into the Toe Razor project. We threw out of the plane. What was that called? Royal Gunfighter. No, Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon, where they took this M-Razor, they attached a tow system on the back, and they threw it out of an airplane. And then it landed with the crew, like they jumped out too, and they drove it through the training area, and they
Wow.
and they engaged targets out in the training area to prove that we can actually
Airborne ops.
airborne ops with vehicles that can have tow on it, and we can kill tanks and light infantry. So that was the big push that came next. After that, summer leave, change of command, we went through a fall readiness cycle, and then we got into pre-deployment training around
There we go.
2023.
Yep, for your second operation now,
Yeah.
which is the one where I met you.
Where we got to put you on the team. We got to work together.
That's right. That was Op Unifier.
Off Unifier Road of 17.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, how did you find your Op Unifier experience?
I would say it was the best experience I've had in the military so far.
Really? Why do you say that?
Possibly. So a lot of reasons, I got to take a team. We stood up the I call it the task force, I guess, around November of 2023. So we got to really integrate the team. We had a bunch of guys from different companies at 3RCR. There were some Quebec company guys, a lot of Austria company guys, a lot of new people, like they're first in a battalion for less than a year, some of them only a couple months. We took in a bunch of reservists that we had to integrate as well. So Major Snook, the OC of the UKT portion, he took me and my peer, Captain Matt Choquette, said, "Hey, Brett, I want you to come up with a trench plan, a week of trench training. Matt, I want you to do urban ops, develop basically the teaching plans, and back brief me on them. I'll give you the good go ahead if it's good to go, or if I'll make some changes if it's not." And then we launched into it. So we each did that. We hot swapped. So I went into urban ops in week 2. Matt went into trench warfare, which was awesome because it was like an OC actually like really exercising, mission command. He was out there saying, "Hey, you guys are captains. I trust you. I'm giving you some direction. I'm giving you my intent. The planning is up to you." So myself, my warrant, and then Matt and his warrant got to really build like our own training plans. It was weird. It was really weird actually being given like leeway to like make mistakes. So that was awesome. We built our plans. We hot swapped them. So I took over urban in the second week, and I kept working my team through. And I saw a lot of growth and development because Unifier is training Ukrainian soldiers, right? Some of them recruits, some of them who've had a lot of military experience, and the training's done by the privates and corporals, which is not something that happens in Canada. So the full training plan was teaching our guys that 2 weeks of pre-deployment training, teaching our privates and corporals to teach at a level that they can actually teach foreign soldiers who are going to go to war. So like first experience with Unifier, incredible. Like I got to, like I said, come up with a plan and execute it and actually work on my own and really start to integrate a team together. After pre-deployment training, we went into all of our pre-deployment briefs, we went into Christmas leave. Team 1 went out the door early January, I think the 5th of January. My team, maybe the 7th, my team went out the door on the 17th of January. And then it was just like a fire hose, like we get on the ground. It's get off the plane. It's like go to sleep. So we get into our shacks, we barely unpack, we get our rooms, we wake up like 5 hours later and it's like, all right, briefing, range recce, driver's test, this, that, here's this area. You're in a different country. They drive on the other side of the road. You don't see your team of like 65 people, which is also awesome. I'm a platoon commander. I've only ever had 20, 30 guys in my platoon. I have 65 people. Matt's team's already on the ground. They're starting their first course. So they're teaching basic training or recruit training courses, RTCs. So they're kind of leading the way on that. They're following what Roto 16 had done. They're kind of doing their own thing. We were tasked with, initially, we were going to do a recruit training course and an instructor course at the same time, which there was no courseware for the instructor course. So I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to wrap my head around.
From scratch.
We're just in theater. We're starting course in 5 days. I'm trying to build a new ORBAT where we're going to have enough guys, enough leadership and other troops to run 3 platoons to teach the RTC. I'm integrating a Lithuanian training team into our teams. Now I'm up to like 80 some subordinates with, a peer Lithuanian captain who's a lot older than me. He's a lot taller than me too. So that was weird. I actually called him sir the first time, even though I was in charge. So trying to integrate them into our team, trying to make sure our RTC platoons are good to go. All the sergeants and the troops are coming to me asking like for guidance on this. And it's like, oh my God, as I finish wrapping my head around the RTC, it's like, I've got Sergeant Glasnovich and Sergeant Corville coming to me like every day going, what's going on with the IC? Where's the course? What are we doing? I'm like, I've never built a course before. I don't know what to do. So, Glass and Corville, like, bless them, like super thankful for them because I kind of gave them all the direction I could. And they built that course pretty much from scratch. They had a schedule and that was it.
Yeah.
Everything else, they were like, we're going to build this. And they did an incredible job.
Yeah.
So now, we're through that kind of first week. Courses are starting. Each of the courses on Op Unifier, they're 35 days. So you get about 10 days of basic soldier skills, weapons handling, 10 days of fieldcraft, 5 days rural, 5 days urban, and then 10 days of range packages culminating in a battle inoculation where they put everything that they've learned in their 30 days to the test.
And this is for, like, there's a wide variety of people you'll see coming through that recruit training course.
Yeah.
You have very experienced veterans who have already have combat experience in their service. And then you have people who were just enrolled into the military not too long ago. This is their first real military experience.
You've got young guys out there who all they want to do is like fight for their country
Yeah.
and, kill Russians. And you got old guys out there who are like 50, 60 years old who are working hard. They're putting in the effort, but it's tough when you're 30 days in the field, 30 days of training, a couple days off, and they're grinding, they're trying to do their best, but they're also, they're older men, they're hurting.
I'll never forget this. I mean, like, we had this one student. So what we did on the instructor course, so everybody listening, so how my story ties in with the Dear Captain story is that while we were deployed, I was the CQ quartermaster, the company quartermaster sergeant's 2IC, second in command. And so it's a very logistical, integral position to any sort of task force or battalion or company. But I'm in this role and, I communicated my intentions that I wanted to go teach. And what happened was that I was offered this opportunity. I got plugged into training team 2 and I was allowed to augment the instructor course. And so while we were over there, one of the things that Mario Glass and Rick Corville would do, these guys were the senior Canadian instructors there. They provided an opportunity for our candidates who were typically more senior students in theory. We had everybody.
I'll give a quick synopsis of the instructor
Yeah.
course too. So the instructor course was built exact same timeline as the recruit course, but it's entirely geared towards teaching them to be instructors. So we had I'll get into it in a second, but they go through a couple days of basic fieldcraft. They basically, because we had no courseware, they had a Ukrainian PAM that taught Ukrainian doctrine, and it was English and Ukrainian, so our instructors could read it as well. And they had a couple days of basic fieldcraft. They had a couple days of instructor theory, a couple days of medical training, some days of engineering, about a week on the range where they teach each other how to do all the rangisms, teach each other, or we teach them, then they run the ranges themselves. Then they get into about 6 or 7 days of urban ops, 2 or 3 days of field and trench training. And then they finish off with 3 days of just teaching lessons. So we got to bring Manny in. which really helped us out because we were kind of short on kind of senior guys who we could send over to their instructor course. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Back into bringing Manny into the team.
What I wanted to say was my story with an older candidate. And because we gave the students an opportunity, like second day or whatever of the course, to give like a 1-minute presentation, like an icebreaker of who you are. You know, there's one gentleman was like, hey man, I used to work at a power plant for until I was 48 years old. 48 years old, I was a power plant technician. The war kicks off, and now I'm a DFS sergeant, you know? And you can see how thrilled he was about his new career, you know? But he was a very hardworking student, a great person. But it was just interesting for me to take in, wow, this country has very different circumstances happening. And the type of, you know, students, the clients that I'm servicing right now that are coming through our door, they're very interesting people, old, young, with different intentions of why they're here. I had guys who were like, yeah, I'm like 18, 20 years old. I was just bored. And my country got invaded. So I wanted to join like an assault brigade or some shit because everybody's doing it. And then you got other guys out here who are like, man, I used to be in the military. Then I started this other thing. I had my own business and the war popped off. And then I had to go and enlist and serve because of the priority of requiring personnel. So it's very interesting. But yeah, what a great opportunity. I can't help but be thankful that I got to go and be part of the United Kingdom training element. You can try to see it on the hoodie here.
Oh yeah, you were in your...
Yeah, I'm rocking.
Yeah, show off the... I've just got, you know, my little mortar platoon.
No, I like this.
My little mortar platoon crew neck.
I like it.
With our flag on the back.
For all you people listening, we got to get more fashionable, okay? Looking cool is half the job. So you get to go to Op Unifier. When you got back, did you go back to Mortar Platoon?
I did, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So it was pretty weird, you know, going from a deployment where I had 85-ish subordinates pretty much directly under me.
Yeah.
To then encounter the 200-ish candidates between the RTC and the IC. So really like close to 300 subordinates under my chain, under my, you know, supervision authority. Come back here to Mortar Platoon where, you know, I've worked here before. I'd done 2 years in Mortar Platoon before I deployed. And now I'm back here with like 20, 30 guys. It was a shock. It was weird. It took a little getting used to. But it's good to be back with the guys. You know, I like to think the Mortar Platoon is like the best platoon of the battalion. Like, don't say that. I don't want to make the rivalry up, but I love all the guys. Now I got an excellent platoon 2IC, Hayden Walsh.
Yeah, tell us about these guys.
So captain now. He just got promoted the other day at a mess dinner. Hayden Walsh is my 2IC. When I was deployed, he spent his year doing the 3 mortar courses to become the next mortar guy. I've got Warren Salavera, who's been in mortars since he was a master corporal. He helped stand up the original platoon in 2018.
Wow.
Then I've got Sergeants Alex Lavoie and Corey Janes, who both were also like original mortar platoon guys, master corporal types when the platoon stood up in 2018. Alex is our group positions officer, or GPO, so he kind of controls the mortar line, the mortar group, the platoon, like on the ground. Incredible. He's incredibly competent. All the training the guys go through, like he's kind of heading that up. He does a really good job. And then Corey is our mortar fire controller and our UAS SME. So he's been the mortar fire controller for the last 2 or 3 years. Pretty much any questions you have about controlling indirect fire, he can answer those for you. As well as him and Hayden are the battalion UAS guys. So they're in charge of integrating UAS from the battalion. Any UAS questions, you can go to Corey and you ask him because he like pretty much knows everything. He spends a lot of his spare time researching different platforms. We just fired a range where we got to trial 2 or 3 new systems. Apache Control and Direct Fire, which was pretty much run by Sergeant James, which was pretty incredible experience. Definitely good things moving forward. Moving down to the platoon, we got Master Corporal Adams. He's working to take over the MFC job from Corey. Also very competent. I believe he was one of the original guys too. He would have been like a private corporal type. Gone to JRTC twice with Mortar Platoon. And then, you know, just the guys in the platoon. Like, I love working with them every day. They show up ready to work every day. They're awesome. I watch them train on the front lawn. They have ideas for training. They want to do stuff. They're gung-ho. They're always volunteering for tasks. So it was sad giving up the 85-ish people that I was in charge of, but coming back to these guys, it was back to felt like coming home. and it was awesome to be back with them every day and seeing them around and doing training with them, getting out in the field and doing stuff. So
That's fantastic. I can feel that you genuinely have this kind of love and appreciation for, working in the mortar platoon, the people that you get to interact with, that are your subordinates and stuff, and that's amazing. Can you explain to us about what does one have to accomplish in order to become a fully qualified, what do you call the mortar operator?
I'd say so. There's a mortar operator, the guys who are just qualified to put a bomb down the tube. And then we've got, I'd say, the advanced mortar guys who have all the other qualifications. So generally...
Let's talk about going from somebody from zero to hero, coming across the hall. They come over to mortar platoon. What do they have to do, courses or training?
So first step, hit your occupational function point. Get to the battalion. That's all you need. If you're an NCM, NCO, the first step is the basic mortar course. It's 13 days of learning how to use the tube, how to put a bomb down the spout, how to use the C2 sight. So they do 3 days of Delta package, which is taught by me and the warrant, and that is basically indirect fire theory. So anyone that like an artillery guy would learn, kind of going through their own phase training about how indirect fire works, coming up and down. We teach that to them over 3 days of in-class stuff. And then the next 7 days are them out just using the tubes themselves, so setting them up, tearing them down, doing the drills to bring them into action, bring them out of action, how to adjust their bearing and elevation when they're getting calls of fire, learning and using fire discipline, which is the language of the artillery.
Can you explain that?
I hope there's no artillery people watching, because the definition of fire discipline is the language of fire control. Consists of very specific words and phrases that lead to do a definitive action on the tubes. So unlike, it's kind of like radio procedure where you say certain things to mean certain things. On the line, like saying certain things leads to things actually happening, so that there's no confusion. Everyone's like talking the exact same way. So it's a big learning gap for the guys to kind of grasp that. Then once they've kind of mastered all the tube drills, they get the layers test, which consists of them filling. There's 3 different roles on the tube. You have the number one who is, there's 3 different jobs in a det. A det consists of 3 guys. So for number one, he's the guy who is in overall command of the det. He keeps track of all the fire orders they get, and making sure that the right drills are being carried out and that the right ammo is going down the tube.
And what's the rank of this person normally?
Normally just a corporal.
Just a corporal is looking after this? I don't want to say just a corporal, but a corporal will be looking after this.
Yeah, he's just, he's no different than the guys around him, other than he'll normally have a little more experience. The number 2, sorry guys if I get this wrong, the number 2, I believe, looks after the C2 site. So his job is to make all the bearing and elevation adjustments in line with the fire orders. And then the number 3 is in charge of actually putting the bomb down the tube. So they take the bomb out of its container. They make sure that it's the right charges on it, that it's the actual right bomb. If they're calling for smoke, they've got a smoke bomb, not an HE bomb. If they want charge 3, that they only have 3 charge increments on there. And then if it has to have the fuse adjusted, whether it's HE, you can put that into a delay round, which will punch into the ground and explode. It can be super quick, which means it explodes on impact, or it could be an airburst proximity round, which explodes, I think, 2 or 3 meters above the ground. So make sure that the fuse is okay, charges are right, and he has the right bomb, and then he puts it down on order the number 1.
So basically, you're learning how to operate the weapon system.
Yeah.
Not how to sight it?
How to
someone else's job?
But not how to sight it, yeah.
Okay, Roger. Setting it up, operating it, tearing it down, maintaining it.
Exactly.
Okay, Roger.
That takes about 7 days, a 13-day course. They have a day where we do mortar FTX. So we...
on top of the course, or it's part of the course?
It's part of the course.
Okay.
So in the occasion where you operate dismounted, what the base level weight in a rucksack is going to be at least 60 pounds. Just because each member of the det will carry 1/3 of the tube. Some will have the base plate, some will have the bipod, some will have the tube itself. Each piece weighs about 30 pounds. On top of that, each member of the det will carry a tri-pack, so that's 3 bombs, HE smoke illumination. Well, generally a det will have, I believe, 1 illumination, 2 smoke, and then 6 HE if they're operating dismounted. Each bomb weighs 10 pounds, so each tri-pack weighs 30 pounds. So just before you throw in sleeping gear, rations, water, ammunition, their rucksack's already at 60 pounds. So we get them to actually pack a real mortar ruck, so it'll be in excess of 80 pounds, plus their FFO and their personal weapons, and we go on about a 5K walk. At no point will the platoon operate dismounted for more than a kilometer. So on the 5K walk, we pull them aside. We give them like what we call quick actions, which means they're on the line of march and there's a call for fire. So the GPO or whoever's in charge, in this case, it'll be the GPO, will give them a fire mission, the guy, and give them a location to set up in, give them a center of arc where they're going to orient their mortars to, and then they jump off the road, they throw their rucksacks down, and they start setting up the tube line. So they do about 4 or 5 quick actions, depending, a couple maybe deliberate occupations of a firing position. And so as we do this 5K route, they're jumping off, they're doing that, and they come back to battalion, at the end of the day, like sweaty, tired, sore, and going, holy fuck, that was a lot of weight to carry. Do I really want to do this?
What makes someone, in your opinion, successful, or what can lead them to being as successful as possible on B mortars?
It's like everything else in our trade. It's general fitness. Everything in the infantry is rucking, so keeping that, fitness, that rucking ability, and just wanting to be here, It's not a hard course to do. I don't have it, I'm an officer, so I can't actually say it's not hard to do. I'm sure I'd have some issues, but wanting to be here, wanting to learn, general fitness, it's like everything else,
Okay, right on.
We definitely run into, we're not the sexiest platoon in the battalion. We got some bigger boys. We carry a lot of weight. The guys are bigger, and we're at high speed. Everyone wants to be recce. Everyone wants to be airborne, wants to do that stuff. But we do fill a very important role of the battalion. The mortar platoon is the organic integral fire support for for a light infantry battalion. Prior to fires from the actual, the artillery units, generally will go to like the mechanized units because they're moving fast. And the M777s can range out farther than a mortar can. So it's nice that the light infantry has us to provide the killing effects and the obscuring effects when required. The last time I went to JRTC, I believe, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but I think we killed something like 65% of the casualties inflicted by RCR.
That's incredible.
So, that's sorry to digress. That's some of the problems we run into. Like guys get here and they want to go and do the cool stuff. I want to do recce. I want to do airborne stuff. And then they're like, "Hey, you're on basic mortars." And they're like, "I don't want to be an artillery guy. I don't want to be here." But after they get to the live fire range, which is the last kind of 2 days of basic mortars, they go, "Wow, that was fucking cool." Because they're dropping rounds, they're seeing the effects in the training area, and they're going like, "Oh," they learn that they're like, "Hey, anything within 40 meters of that is probably dead." Anything within 100, 150 meters of that is probably walking around wounded.
Man, when I think of mortars, like I have some mortar experience because I came through the training system in 2010 where the 60 mil was still part of our DP1. And I was a reservist, right? So I fired chalk rounds out of the 60 mil tube. So I have this kind of my own little appreciation for it. But it's neat when you try to break down and unpack and try to communicate, like when you're selling it to someone, why I think they should try out mortars. Because, I run into this problem when I'm across the hall where I work. Yeah. And I'm over at Parachute Company, Mike Company through RCR. And, there's a lot of, people over there that have aspirations and ambitions and sometimes coming across the hall and which subunit, which specialty they want to get involved with at the battalion. And mortars isn't usually like on everyone's front list. And when you start unpacking like mortars to somebody, it's like, well, there's critical thinking that's involved in this, right? You're talking about having such a significant role in enabling the battalion in terms of like effects on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And, there's a bit of that childish, like fucking excitement that comes. I don't want to say it's childish, but that excitement of like explosives.
Yep.
And everybody, I think like 99.9% of the people I met in the infantry love some explosives. Right.
Yeah.
And so when you think about being able to be utilized in a meaningful way to have effects of helping your friends, your colleagues on the ground and achieving the overall mission, that's awesome. But I like the whole critical thinking part of it because you have to make deductions, right? Especially if you're going to find yourself in more of a responsibility role, whether you're that corporal or you're that master corporal or sergeant or officer in your role, you got to make decisions. And, I did the DFS commander's course because I can only assume that when you're in a mortar platoon, the expectations are a little bit higher about your ability to be responsible, accountable, and to execute tasks, right?
We got a lot of junior leadership, every deck commander is pretty much like, they're basically like a Section 2 IC. They got like 3 guys under their command. They got a lot of stuff to keep track of, all the steno, all the two-piece that they have to maintain, the bombs themselves, their own sleeping kit, and make sure that like everyone on the dead is kind of carrying the same amount of weight. And then those junior guys too, very quickly, they can go and be the line NCO and be the guy who oversees the whole line. of 4 mortars. So
Yeah. And this is small teams, right?
small teams.
So a lot of people got to pick up more responsibilities than you would find in a normal line unit.
Some stuff that we want to get into is doing like dispersed operations. So obviously, you know, with Ukraine going on right now, there's a lot of footage of drones coming out and killing stuff. And I've heard that the counter battery time is like a minute, 2 minutes from you dropping that first round down to a counter battery coming at you. So,
And just so anybody's listening, basically you're referring to the capacity for the enemy force to target your location and have a round coming your way.
yeah, to like try and destroy a firing unit. So we need to get into operating like dispersed, having like, you know, tubes either spread out over like maybe 4 tubes over like a 400 meter frontage so that it's hard to actually get counter batteried, or alternatively sending a tube off, a dead off on its own to go and like do a harassing fire mission where like we say, hey, you 3, maybe we'll give them a senior guy to kind of look after them, but it's like, hey, you 3, this is the location you're going to. This is the time we need you at that location. This is the ammo you're going to be firing. And this is the time that ammo needs to be on target. Over to you, go do it. So those guys do have to be able to think critically. They do have to be able to work independently, and they do have to, you know, be trustworthy, accountable. So we do like the, you know, smart, hardworking guys here.
Right on.
So you're asking still, unless you want to keep on this topic.
I would like to talk about the next course after B mortars.
So yeah, so that's what I'll get into. So then the next course, it used to be called Intermediate Mortars. We've renamed that to MTech, Mortar Technical Employment Course, which is now one. So there used to be Intermediate Advanced. Now there's MTech, mods 1, 2, and 3. So MTech mod 1 gives you all the skills to operate in a mortar control post, CP. So you learn how to be the control post operator, the CPO. You learn how to be the group position operator officer, the GPO. And you learn how to do what we call safety. So the CPO, their job when a mortar fire controller or a FOO party gives a call for fire, that data goes to the CP, and the CPO, using either the digital computation system or the analog computation system, takes a grid and a bearing and turns that into, or a grid and a direction, and turns that into a bearing and an elevation that can be given to the tubes. So they compute that, they pass that to the line, they give them HE quick, charge 6, bearing 5600, elevation 1111, and now all those tubes can lay onto that bearing elevation. They can start bumping rounds downrange. The group position officer, the GPO, his job is he basically is in charge of the whole mortar group. So mortar group is 4 tubes and the CP, and then any other like kind of sustainment elements that we attach to that. So he's in charge of all of that. He's basically acting as almost like, you know, kind of a platoon commander. In the artillery for their batteries, you have like a captain who's their GPO for their troops or their batteries. So we have a sergeant doing that. So they learn how to do the double checks on all the firing data. They learn how to do control the whole group, and they learn how to do some basic mission planning on mod 1. And then the safety officer, it's something that's entirely that happens on Canadian Forces ranges. And their job is to use some math and just make sure that no bombs are going to be landing outside of the impact area. So no round is actually going to be unsafe. So that's what you learn on mod 1, say 5 or 6 week course now. I'm not sure exactly. And it's a lot of math. It is the hardest of the 3 courses because it is all like math and it's long hours.
So the mod 2 you're speaking to?
No, that's mod 1.
Mod 1.
So mod 1. So that, I don't remember what we call mod 1. Mod 2 is the entirely mortar fire controller course. So everything they learn for 6 weeks on mod 2 is how to control bombs. So they get there, they spend 3 weeks in the indirect fire trainer, like in a SAT trainer or whatever. And they basically learn how to call in every different type of mission to include fire planning. That takes about 3 weeks. They get assessed in the simulator, and then they move on to a live fire range, where for about a week they call in multiple different types of missions, live bombs on a range. They're adjusting the target. They're given a target in the training area, and then they pull a grid in a direction, or they pull a direction and distance, and they have to find that target, and they adjust that target, and they get like the whole mortar group firing on it.
Is it wrong to think of somebody who's in the role of a is it mortar fire controller?
Yeah.
As like a FOO?
It's not wrong, no. Maybe some of my FOO friends might disagree with me, but
there are some nuances that
there are some nuances. Like
keep them separate.
A FOO our MFCs train on the 81s, but they can call in, and they have. I think most of the MFCs in the platoon have actually called in live M777 rounds, whereas the FOOs, they train on the M777. So the M777, It's a little bit more, it's a lot more complicated. I shouldn't say it's little. It's a lot more complicated than the mortar. It can range out to, I think 24K with just normal rounds, whereas the mortar, the 81 is only ranging out to 5.6K. There's a lot of different types of ammunition that an M777 can fire. There's a lot of different ways it can engage a target, and it's a lot bigger and more expensive. So they definitely receive, and their course itself is 3 months long. And a FOO will always be an officer, whereas for us, the MFC is normally a master corporal or sergeant. Which is not to say that our guys are not, well trained. They get a lot of training. They have called in live M777 ammo. But just because the mortar itself is a little bit more simpler, so our training is a little bit shorter, but also in the infantry, you kind of have to make do with what you got. So to answer your question, I would say no, it's not wrong to think of them as a FOO, but maybe like a FOO light would be the way to do it. Yeah.
It was funny. I was talking to the pilots, right? We were overseas, and I'm like, so like I'm force protection with the CMERC guys, but we're not just passengers. We spend a lot of fucking time on this helicopter, man. So like, is there another way we could describe ourselves without just being passengers? Like, are we like not air crew, but like assistant, like air crew assistants? And the pilot dude was just thinking about it. He's just thinking about it. And he's just like, yeah, man, you guys are like assistants to the air crew. It's like, if you ever want to know rap this, yeah. Not the assistant regional manager. I'm the assistant to the regional managers. That's what he referred to us as. And I'm like, yeah, roger that. It's good to go.
Roger that. Force protection, please. Call them force protections.
So that explains basically mod 1 and 2?
And 2.
Okay, so what's happening on mod 3?
Mod 3 is only 10 training days, and it's geared towards future platoon commanders, future platoon warrants, and future GPOs.
It's only geared towards them?
It's geared towards them because it's meant for actually training you to command a platoon, to actually command a group, hopefully to sustain a platoon. Because of just the way courses are run, oftentimes, I say oftentimes, they've only run one mod 3 up to this point. But it's geared towards, so we have loaded like junior members, like corporals, master corporals, sergeants on it, but it's geared towards those 10 training days. You learn basically how to write orders and partake in like a battle group or battalion level like exercise or operation. And you learn how to, order your guys around. So you will prepare. So the platoon commander, the officers will actually get orders from either the mortar cell OIC or on my advanced course, I got them from the commander of the infantry school, Lieutenant Colonel Corby. And then they go through their whole battle procedure. The platoon commander, once he's done his battle procedure, will then issue orders to his NCOs and his DET, who will prepare like group level orders that they would give to their guys. Once the orders are prepared, they then back brief the platoon commander under assessment. Platoon commander takes that back brief, and then he will finalize his orders, and then he goes and back briefs either the OIC of the mortar cell or the CO of the infantry, the commandant of the infantry school on this exercise that they're doing. So I got to back brief Lieutenant Colonel Corby. I got a lot of points to improve on, but Brett Backs-McClatchie might not have done the best on his first run through. But yeah, so that's what they do. And then they take that order set, they upload it into JCATS, and then you go and fight your mission for a couple of days in JCATS under assessment, where you're sitting in the battalion talk. You have the OPSO coming in and asking for updates. You have your guys controlling the mortar groups, the MFC parties. You're giving them movement orders. You're taking requests for fire. You're passing up through the FSCC. You're passing up on the artillery net. You're getting the airspace clear, and then you're saying, yeah, good to go, engage that target. You're passing BDA up and down. You're passing deconflicting fires across boundaries. So it's learning all that, the actual command portion of it.
See, that's what I mean about the critical thinking, because all those variables you have to consider, you'll have to speak to, communicate, deconflict with. That I think is amazing. And I think people really enjoy that when you're putting in a lot of legwork into making something happen, and you can make it happen.
Yeah. Then we actually see it all come together. It's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. So when you graduate that course as an NCO, for all the NCMs listening here, basic mortars, and then if you wish to progress in your career in mortar platoon, you're going to do the M-Tech course.
Yeah.
Mod 1 and Mod 2, and maybe Mod 3, or you will do Mod 3.
I'd say you probably will do Mod 3.
Yeah.
The guys that we loaded on course last year, they all did Mod 3, even though, some of them were corporals at the time.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and having sat on the writing board for that course, the intent of that was if you're a corporal right now, you're not going to be a platoon warrant or a group commander for probably another 5 or 6 years, right? So it's like, while you've probably exercised all these things and learned them, you might have also gone and done a stint at a school teaching, DP1s, or you might have gone over to a rifle company and done, just Army stuff for a while. So the intent for that was like, hey, this guy's coming back to mortar platoon. They're now a sergeant. It's been 10 years or a couple of years since they've been in here. Let's give them this course now so that they can actually like wrap their head around like,
let it soak in.
But just, kind of the way things are sometimes, like you got spots open on course right now. We're not going to run a course for 3 or 4 people. So they just load everyone on there. And
say, hey, what are you doing in the hall? I'm just grabbing some water. All right, chuck it across the hall.
You're going on mortars. So they got loaded. And now at least they have the, the baseline knowledge, and then they can now, hopefully they can be a better master corporal because they've been exposed to like sergeant level or platoon commander level stuff too. So
yeah, that's awesome. I have a question about the course after that, advanced mortars.
So that MTech is advanced mortars.
MTech is now
advanced. Yeah, so we took the old intermediate, which was all most of the CP skills minus safety and minus the GPO, and advanced, which was MFC plus safety and plus GPO. And we got rid of them. We mashed them together in MTech, and then we pulled off the mods to make it like, okay, you're going to learn all the skills of the CP in mod 1, all the MFC skills in mod 2, and then all the other skills in mod 3. So yes, got rid of intermediate advanced, brought in MTech.
That's fantastic. So when you're in mortar platoon, what's your routine like? Like, what do you guys get up to in the month, in the weeks?
We're always really busy. So we just finished teaching a basic mortar course. When we're on the range for that basic mortar course, we realized that we needed to run a GPUAS course because at 3RCR, mortar platoon has actually become the UAS SMEs. It's our job to integrate GPUAS into the battalion and come up with like SOPs and like hold on to those qualifications and then like support the other companies. Because this is a lot for, not a lot of guys. We only have 2 systems. To support all the exercises, we were like, we need more GPUS operators in the battalion. So we've just finished a GPUS course. So since September.
For anybody listening who's not familiar with this terminology, we're basically talking about like portable drones.
Yeah. General purpose unmanned aerial systems is GPUAS. So drones, not like a big Reaper drone, but we're talking like a small like quadcopter.
Like landing a takeoff out of your hand.
Yeah. So since October, late October, we were busy with the basic and then the UAS course. Now we're into silly season and then Christmas break. In the new year, we're going to teach a pre-course for all of our guys going on mod 2. So that's like 2 weeks in the IFT and direct fire trainer, giving them all the skills that they're going to need to actually succeed on that course. Because there's a lot. As soon as that pre-course finishes, we teach another basic mortar course. So if anyone's out there listening and you want to learn how to use mortars, come to RCR, figure it out.
Yeah.
When that finishes, we're coming up at the end of the fiscal year. So I'm hoping to, depending on what else is going on in the battalion, get some sort of training plan going where we're going to try and work on that dispersed debt operation stuff that we were talking about. Maybe LOSVs, maybe ATVs, maybe, whatever vehicles we can source because, as we're hurting for vehicles in the battalion right now. And it's hard to really train when you've got one Mack truck for troop lift, equipment lift, and ammo lift all at the same time. So we're looking to hopefully do a range in that time period where we do some dispersed stuff. We fire off the last couple hundred bombs we have allotted to us for the fiscal year. That'll bring us into the spring. We'll likely have a lot of guys. It's tough being a mortar platoon too because anytime that you actually have downtime, all of our guys are kind of senior corporals or they're master corporals. So they're getting pulled off to go and teach on something or to go on DLQ or cold weather operator. And, we're out supporting so if a rifle company's off on exercise or MFCs are out supporting that. So it's hard to find time to actually like train as the platoon because we're so busy supporting so many things. And when we do have time to train, guys aren't here. So we'll go into the spring kind of PCF cycle, readiness cycle. Hopefully we'll have time to get some more training done, fire some bombs down range. The guys themselves, when we have enough guys around, they're kind of, maintaining their qualifications. They're doing, we oftentimes have IFT training going on. So even the privates and corporals who are just the mortar operators, they'll be in the IFT. They're learning how the MFC party works. They're getting their own opportunities to either support a qualified MFC or actually practice it themselves, doing like all arms call fire or adjusting the mission. If they're not doing that, they're sometimes out on the front lawn, just practicing their drills under the direction of the GPO, because the standard that we strive for is from, fire mission or being told to set up, like basically 1 minute from being told to set up to having them set up and like ready to go in action. just, working the bearing and the elevation adjustments with
all the technical skills.
All the technical skills that, like, when you don't touch it for a couple months or you go off and you're doing section attacks, that can, not degrade, but get a little rusty.
Yeah.
So a lot of low-level training in and around the building, in and around garrison, and then always planning for, future exercises, hopefully, when we have the time and the ammo and the equipment and the people.
Question. So, we have the Patricias, the Van Dews, and ourselves. We all have this capability. Mm-hmm. Have you worked with the other regiments, or do you know if you guys do things slightly different?
I think we all do things a little differently. We all get the standard when we're at the school. And then you kind of come back, and whoever's kind of in your platoon at the time, when you come back to meet your qualifications, everyone will do things a little differently. We haven't had, at least in my time, an opportunity to work with our brother and sister platoons. And we're always trying to, find ways to stay in contact, but how busy we are, right? Like, everyone's always busy. Everyone's always deployed doing something, and the different brigades are always at different readiness cycles, and people are in and out of the different seats. I'll leave here 3 years as a mortar platoon commander. The guys who got qualified with me.
That's incredible. You've been with Mortar Platoon for 3 years.
It'll be about 2.5, 3 years.
Throw deployment, maybe 2 in there, but 3 years, that's incredible.
Yeah, the guys who got qualified for the Patricias and the Van Dews at the same time as me, they're all gone. They're all doing other stuff. So I don't actually, haven't talked with any of the new platoon commanders. I don't really know what's going on, but like Hayden, my 2IC, he's in contact with the guys who are like currently commanding those platoons. And then Robin Fuller, who is currently in the pipeline to be the next mortar guy after Hayden. He's doing course with the next guys for the Patricias of the Van Dews. So hopefully they'll have a pretty close relationship that we can leverage for, future kind of like SOP development, see what they're doing, what they're not doing. And then when they're in the seat at the same time, they'll have a pretty close.
Do you think all three of the 3 light battalion platoons should get together? It would be beneficial for you guys?
It would 100% be beneficial. We've talked about stuff in the past, like my first year in the seat, Jan Bartona is my Van Dew buddy who I did training with.
What a name, Jan.
Polish.
I love
Polish guy. We were talking all the time about trying to get some sort of competition going, some joint training going, but it's just, they got eaten up by JRTC, and then we got eaten up by like Savan and Union and preparation for Unifier, and it's just hard to find time to actually make that happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Man, we talked about a lot. We talked about Mortar Platoon. We talked about the different kind of roles and responsibilities that go into Mortar Platoon. Talked about what your guys' kind of like day-to-day, weekly is like. When it comes to like your career, I don't know if I already asked you this because I did 2 interviews today, but what made you want to join the military?
You did ask me a little bit.
I did ask you that?
Oh, yeah.
We'll cut that one out there. It's all good. If I already asked you, we'll cut that one out. It's just, it's keeping track of the last conversation on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you.
All right, I got an answer for you.
What do you like to enjoy? What do you like to get up to when you're not at work?
Not at work. So, I'm actually like kind of exploring some new hobbies right now. So, having just deployed, working with Ukrainians, I started learning a little Ukrainian on deployment.
Okay.
So I'm still working on that in my spare time. You never know when you might be, maybe Canada.
Oh, you're still practicing today?
I'm at a 180-day Duolingo streak right now.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. So that's one of the hobbies I do. I try to do every day. Started, trying to like maybe explore my artistic side a little bit more. I've started doing some painting on the side.
And for everybody listening, he said autistic, not artistic. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding.
I'm a pretty sporty guy. So Olympian Bears going on right now. I played volleyball.
Right on.
I play some.
How was that? How was Olympian Bear for you?
It was really fun. Actually, we had a good time. I got to meet a bunch of guys I wouldn't normally meet at battalion. I got to like just go and play sports and be again, which doesn't happen very often when you're here. So I had a lot of fun. Got a couple wins, couple tough losses, but it was good. At least something sustained for the future. I play rugby in my spare time, some rugby and hockey.
And like ice hockey?
Ice hockey, yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of ice hockey this year since I've been home because, I've been kind of busy. I went on ATOC, I went and did other stuff. So I haven't really connected with any teams in the area this year. But I played some rugby this summer with my club team in Brockville. Otherwise, just hanging out with the friends, planning my future, trying to decide if I want to do a master's or not sometime soon.
Just officer problems.
Just officer problems, yeah.
Yo, man, so like this career is demanding. Being in the military is typically demanding. Like how do you like to like take care of yourself, recharge yourself? you know, just so you don't succumb to sometimes being overwhelmed?
Great question, actually. So coming back from deployment, I definitely felt a little overwhelmed. You know how hard we worked. You know, in 6 months, I think we might have had 10, 15 days off total. And that go lifestyle, and then coming home and you're just on summer leave and you don't have the subordinates anymore and you're not busy with stuff anymore. So I definitely felt pretty overwhelmed coming back from deployment. And as I transitioned back into the platoon, so I've started, talking to a therapist. It's definitely helped a lot. Helps you kind of deal with things, look at things from a different perspective.
Do you think that perspective is something that needs to be really looked after? Because like, if you don't like every now and then check in with yourself, like you can get really salty about shit.
You can definitely get like really salty about things. And you can also, I think, I don't want to say like lose sight of things, but you can maybe get like kind of railroaded, like train track mind onto something.
Yeah.
And you just need to kind of like talk about it with someone else who has a different perspective, or maybe is a little older than you, or has, been trained to deal with these things. And they can be like, hey, like what you're saying right now doesn't really make sense. You're just putting yourself in like a feedback loop or like a negative loop. And they can point out something and it's like, oh, hey, like you're right. That's something that I just didn't even realize, or I was looking at this like maybe in an unhealthy way or the wrong way. So that's definitely helped. Connecting with a lot of friends, both in Petawawa, my peers who've done things, a lot of senior NCOs like you and Warren Balcom, definitely helps keep me grounded. People I can go and talk to and be like,
man, Chris is great.
He is.
Like Balcom is great. And like he used to speak highly of you, like, and
he used to speak highly of me.
Yeah. On the deployment, I never knew the good captain here. So Chris Balcom, who used to be the mortar platoon warrant officer.
Yeah, my first mortar platoon warrant.
Mortar platoon warrant, because there is a mortar platoon 2IC who's an officer.
Yes.
Okay, so the mortar platoon warrant, Chris Balcom, great guy, fantastic boss. He was my boss overseas on the mission as the CQ of Oscar Company, and man, he would speak highly of you. And not that he would, but you get, everybody knows what the fuck I'm saying, right? Okay, cool.
Hey, you got officer.
Reed's like shaking his head like, yo, tell me, bro. Okay. But yeah, what a great person.
He is incredible. I used to call him, I still do call him my grumpy therapist. Cause anytime I'm having a problem in my life, whether it's like personal, professional, whatever, I can go over to him and be like, just talk to him, rant about it. And he sits there and he listens, and it's not a lived experience,
Yeah, man.
He's a fucking smart guy.
Yep.
He's a great guy. He cares about,
He cares is just incredible. And I love him so much as a person and as like a soldier.
Yeah.
As my boss.
Great soldier.
For so many reasons.
Super competent.
But yeah, like he used to go out of his way for us, and yeah, I miss him.
I still go to his office all the time. I'm like, hey, what's up? So you really lean on the NCOs around you who've been here for a while, lean on your peers, your fellow officers, just talk stuff through and be like, oh, like, what are you guys doing? And getting out of the building too. I like to, fitness. The Army's really hitting the fitness thing, so I'll, plug some fitness in there. But, I find, just like the laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, object that stays in motion, object remains in motion. I definitely butchered that. When you stop doing fitness stuff and you just kind of like sit at home every day, or maybe drink or smoke weed or whatever, you can kind of like get down on yourself. Whereas you're getting out there, you're running, you're lifting weights, you're taking part in sports, gives you those good brain chemicals that go like think happy thoughts, feel better. It doesn't feel bad to have a six pack too when you look in the mirror. Not that I have one, but
I'll never know what that follow-up feels like.
I can imagine, man. We're creative guys. Those are some of the things that I use to kind of bring myself back to earth, make sure keep myself in a healthy brain space, and work sometimes. Definitely feel better than I did a few months ago. So
this year, we were fortunate to get like an opportunity to do HLT on our deployment. I remember you went away. Can you talk about like where you got to go?
Yeah, so I went to Austria.
Nice.
I spent 4 days in Vienna on our 8-day HLTA. So 4 days in Vienna. I visited the like little lakeside town of Hallstatt, and then I went to Salzburg, which is where The Sound of Music was filmed, for 2 or 3 days before I went back to Vienna, and it was needed for sure. You don't really notice how much kind of like how stressed you can be when you're working every day and you have like people coming to you and you're given direction until you get a little step back from that. So that 8-day break in the middle of deployment, I took mine in April. We got there in January, got to come home in July, was probably really necessary because I came home and I was like refreshed, happy, kind of buried some of the issues that have been bothering me. Got to go and party with, people in Vienna and Salzburg. Actually, it was hilarious. So the town of Salzburg is so small. And I was staying in this tiny little hostel. The bar was, like not much bigger than our mortar lines here. And I met 2 Quebecois guys. And I ended up, going out on the town until 5 in the morning with the guys from Quebec. I was like, as if,
What a random place to meet some fellow brothers
from Canada, I know. So that was good. I got to try a lot of food, some schnitzel, some, amazing desserts, some good German beer, go, pub crawl, do the stuff, meet people. I'm actually still in contact with a lot of those people I met. So I haven't talked to the 2 Quebec guys, but I met 2 Americans, Austin and, I'm sorry if he ever sees this, I'm blanking on his name, but I'm still in contact with them on occasion. Whenever I go traveling, I'll send them a message like, hey, I'm heading traveling to like Northwest Europe this summer. Do you guys, if you guys gonna in the area, you're gonna meet up, you want to do
So you spent your whole trip in Austria?
Yep.
Okay, neat. So why'd you choose Austria?
So we got HLTA thrown on us. Like myself and Matt had to do a lot of work to see if.
You're welcome, motherfuckers. For anybody listening, you know what I'm talking about. You Roto 17 people. All right.
So there's a big push from so pre-deployment training. Master Corporal Singh asked a question during kind of CO's hour, like, "Hey, why don't we get HLTA?"
Sorry, it was the J1.
It was the J1 brief, right?
And let's not even be polite about it. I called him out on it.
I actually forgot that you.
God bless him. I love him though.
So the CO, like his priority for a long time was how do we get these guys HLTA? The CO was like, I'm not taking HLTA unless I can get my guys in the UKT, like the 200 of us that are over there, HLTA, because it's not fair if they don't get to take it. So we get on the ground, and our OC now, getting kind of hammered by the CO, like, is this possible? Is this achievable? Goes like, can you get this happen? So OC goes, Brett, Matt, do the analysis. Let me know if this works. So Matt and I, as we're standing up our groups, as we're trying to deal with all the new stuff coming down and being in the UK, dealing with the Brits, training the Ukrainians, all these things that make sure course run okay. It's like background. Do the analysis. Can HLTA work? I'd shaved my head off at the time, shaved my hair off. So I was like, if I had hair, I would have been ripping it out. But Matt and I did the analysis. We realized that like if everyone gets a 6-day HLTA plus the travel day on both ends, it is achievable to make happen on this tour. So then, we publish it up, we make it happen, it gets approved. And then I think it was a turnaround time of like a week. Like you guys have to have your HLTA plans, like dates that you want to go and your plans for what you're going to do, like into, UKTE HQ in like a week. And I was like, just so tired at this time. So many things going on. And I just Googled best 6-day European vacations. And I like went through the list and I was like, Austria sounds pretty cool. Doing it. Austria's up. And so that's what I ended up doing. And to be honest, it was awesome.
On one hand, I'm like, you're welcome. On the other hand, I'm like, oh, fuck my back. Because I still remember you coming through the back door of the CQ and you telling me, well, Singh, guess what the fuck is on the menu today? Everyone needs to give a return on HLTA, and we have real things to do over here. And I'm like, oh no, I'm so sorry, sir.
But you know what? Point to sustain. The boys got to go and visit and travel. I know some.
Or it's the option to do it.
They got the option. A bunch of guys went to Ibiza and they returned alive. A couple guys got to go and visit, Vimy. They got to go and do whatever. And guys with family got to go home and see their family.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the big win there. So it was all...
because, see, I had time spent at a school, like teaching both at 4 CDTC Meaford, a company here in Petawawa, and then a few other small installations around the Ontario and stuff. And I know instructor burnout. Like, I've taught so many DP1s and whatever courses, and I know what it's like when you're asking me to put all my energy and you want this dedication. You want this in these candidates all the time, right? And it's like, no, like I'm not a machine. I'm actually a human being, but I like to consider myself hardworking, but that gas tank, that battery, it needs to get recharged, and having an opportunity to disconnect a little bit from work for a short period of time can make such a big difference. Yeah. As you said, like with your trip, it kind of helped feel a little bit better before you went back into the grind.
Yeah. Point to sustain for sure. Thanks.
Yeah. No, it's all good. You know what? Secretly, I booked this interview just so I could gloat and make sure you can tell everybody
just a little stuff. You heard it here first. Just start up saying single-handedly maintain the morale and welfare of the UKTE.
It's the second most important principle of war next to leadership. So.
And you know what? None of the Unify rotations had HLTA before us.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Roto 18, they got HLTA going on for them. So, hey, You made actual operational intent.
All the Patricias listening, pro Pat. Pro
Patria.
Man, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. Like, this has been awesome for me. This is basically what it's like, you know, to do an interview. And this is like kind of neat. Like, we can do this. We can sit in the fucking Emirates in your lines.
Have guys walking around the cameras, try to be quiet.
Yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about before we kind of power down?
I guess I'd swing back to like the unifier thing and just talk about kind of like my overall experience there.
Yeah, man.
Because we talked about a lot of things there, but I gotta say, like, that was partially the most rewarding time of my life because I got to be in command of 80 guys. We got to work, we got to do something. But I also want to say, like, that was the best experience of my life because we got to work with the Ukrainians. I met so many good dudes there.
Yeah.
We trained about 800 people on my team. People like you talked about, like 18-year-olds, people who are like 6-year-olds, and just like meeting those guys and seeing them every day and being like, you guys like are here for your country. Like, that fundamentally changed my life, actually, having that kind of like real world impact on something. I look at things totally different now since I've come home. I've realized, like, hey, the world is like a big place, and the Ukrainian news isn't just Ukrainian news anymore. I see like a Russian missile strike on like city of Poltava. Well, I met guys whose families live in Poltava, and I'm like, those families are endangered.
Man, I remember, one of my students stepping out of the classroom because he's like, I got to take this phone call. Like, they're pushing into this region where my family lives, and they're fucking rocketing my neighborhood. Like, my family's being rocketed last night, this morning. I just need to take this phone call. I'm like, yeah, for sure, man. What the fuck? Like, go do your thing. You gotta that was interesting.
Our third course, when the Russians had invaded on like the Kharkiv direction. And we had not only your guy, but we had a whole platoon of guys from the RTC saying, like, we're not trying to cause problems, but our homes are being invaded right now, and we want to go home right now and fight for our country. It's like these guys had the option to sit in the UK for an extra like 10, 15 days and like soak up some British sun, not be shot at, not be in danger. And their first thought was like, I want to go home and fight. I want to be there for my family. And I was like, I feel a little emotional talking about it. 'Cause, yeah, like I said, it just...
What a circumstance to be in when you're defending your home. You know what I mean? Like, I think most people who have served in our military have pretty much conducted expeditionary operations more than they have conducted operations at home defending Canadian sovereign territory.
The last time Canada defended its sovereign territory was in 1812 when we burned down the White House.
Shout out. No, we shouldn't air that. We probably shouldn't. Cut that shit out, Reed. Cut that shit out. You probably...
That's why I was supposed to talk to a PAFO before this.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Man, yeah. Like, what an incredible experience to have. Like, I've been able to teach over 24 courses now, being in the Canadian military, and being able to be over there to teach 2 courses. I'll never forget that experience. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was so meaningful, like what I'm doing really matters. And it's so funny because it's like, I'm not even there to teach them as much. I'm also there to learn from them because they're getting this incredible amount of modern warfare experience, with the drones, especially in particular, a capability that we haven't very well established yet in our inventory. So firsthand, seeing them conducting their counter UAS drills, or just hearing them discuss what they're going to do to mitigate the impact of enemy UASs, that was super informative for me. Understanding why they choose to do their tactics the way they do, super valuable and interesting to me because I'm so used to a different way of approaching it, a conventional, a big footprint on the ground approach.
Yep.
And now these people are coming from a very lean, mean, small unit tactics based, drone based type of what is now conventional operations.
Yep.
And
you had an even bigger impact too, Manny. Like, everyone that you trained on that instructor course wasn't hopefully an instructor that went home, and they took everything that you taught them and are teaching people back home how to do that too.
Yeah.
Everything that you learned from those guys on the first course and then teach the guys on the second course, everything that you could pass on to our guys who, maybe in the future, hopefully, when Ukraine wins the war, like if this mission keeps going and we keep helping them out, that they can go and teach more stuff, or they can go and grow the Canadian knowledge about some of these things too. So
I'm really glad my story got to connect with yours. So, I'm feeling very appreciative about how things have ended up going in my career in my life. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us and share about Mortar Platoon, share a bit about your story, about, you know, why you do the things, what you do, and what you thought about your experiences deploying overseas and expeditionary roles. Shout out to everybody in Quebec Company Mortar Platoon. You guys are in good hands. You guys sound like you have an awesome team that works over here. I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the folks who've gotten me
Maybe
prepared.
in the future, you still want to come over to the platoon?
I would love to go over to the platoon. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
You guys have an expression for mortars? Like, you know, the engineers got like fucking chimo. What's the mortar thing to say?
10 o'clock Monday.
10 o'clock Monday. You heard it here, folks. This is where you want to work. Right on.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
It
it.
was awesome.
Have a good day.
Ukraine.